Good evening, New York Mets fans. It's Mark. Winter is here. Old Ops Guy Halpern, along with Mike, the pun master Rifkin. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening.
Now, why would I say winter is here? I mean, we're in New York. Winter is always here. It's cold
Well,
6 months of the year.
I mean, it also was supposed to snow
Yeah, I
today.
know. We got a little bit of ice. And that came
Ice,
with
baby.
it came with that polar vortex coming out of Canada, saying Canada didn't want Pete Alonso in Toronto, keep him in New York. And that's what it was. It was that big cold burst down from Canada. And Pete said, bull crap, I ain't playing there. We're back with our first baseman and possibly DH at a couple of times here and there to give him a break. Pete Alonso remains a New York Met, thank you, God, for 2 years at 54 million with other incentives. Now, will this be the end of Pete Alonso because of a short contract? No. This is just the way to ease him in, and we'll see what goes on. Mike, you texted me first before I even I saw the news. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to give credit to two people. And the ironic part is not one of them is Pete Alonso. Let's start with Steve Cohen, because we talked about this on the last edition of Batter Up. All right, that's what we're going to call this. And we mentioned at Amazing Day, the fans were saying, resign Pete. Yeah, we want Pete back. And look, Steve Cohen heard that. He said, I'm going to take this into my hands and I'm going to get a deal done. So I want to give Steve Cohen credit on being able to get a deal done. I also want to give credit to David Stearns, because neither one of those two guys budged on what they really could have budged on in this situation to not make themselves look bad or to make Pete Alonso look bad. Instead, they found a way to merge this, and they're able to come up with the best case scenario for us, the Met fan, which is Pete Alonso in the lineup for the 2025 New York Mets.
And 2026, which is very important.
Well, remember,
Well,
there's an
because he does
opt-in.
have the opt out. He does have the opt out. He ain't opting anywhere.
Well, well, we can get to that point in a minute.
Yeah, I
But
know.
let's just get the money part down. It's 2 years and 54 million. It's a 1 year, $30 million deal. If he opts in for 26, it's 1 year for 24 million.
Right.
So there you go. It's two and
Yes.
54. So Pete makes his 30 million this year, and the Mets save face on the fact of it's not a 7 or 8 year contract.
Right. And we were talking, as you mentioned, we had just had a batters up podcast just up the other day that Mike and I were discussing some of these things. And when the Yankees gave Aaron Judge, the 8 years, you knew Scott Boris's eyes lit up to saying, "Oh, wow, they're giving Judge this. I wonder what Cohen's going to go after Pete with." And I think that's where the Yankees made a mistake. I'm not saying Aaron Judge didn't deserve his contract or anything. He would have gotten it somewhere. I'm just saying that Pete Alonso understood that he was never going to see an 8 year deal at his age. Aaron Judge was younger. That was the difference. So Pete gets his 2 year deal. Well, 1 year, and then, like Mike explained. And it's going to be the two most exciting years of Mets baseball in recent history. First of all, why? Your one, two, three, four, five, and six hitters are all going to be a possible 20 plus home run player. You're going to have higher stolen bases this season. And did I mention for once, Pete's got a protection guard? Mike, did I say it right? He's got protection.
Well, and we can get into how the lineup is going to look in a second. But you just brought up the key word in this thing. There's depth to the lineup. There is depth. Now we can construct it however we think Mendoza should, or we're gonna construct it how we would go about it. Right now, the Mets, for my money, have one of the 2 to 3 deepest lineups in the National League. The sad part is the other two teams that with really deep lineups just happen to play in their
Same,
division
right?
because
Yeah.
it's the
How's
Phillies
it?
and the Braves.
Right.
But
It's going to be one of the more memorable years in the NL East.
oh, it's gonna be something. But again, so we've had this conversation over text, so we could get into it now.
Yeah.
How does this lineup shape up?
Well, you and I, to be honest with everybody, it's not like we're just pulling this out of the air. Mike and I have had about a few go back and forth, so it's not like we just made these up, but I'm going with the one that I had sent Mike earlier. Obviously, we know number one is Francisco Lindor. We're not going to have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is where the number two spot is where Mike and I really differ. And I had Brandon Nimmo at the two spot, following with Juan Soto at three, Pete at four. Now, this is where my question is. Is the Jesse Winker who I remember going to show up, or is this where we start discussing where Vientos belongs? Does he belong in a little bit of a cushion at six and put somebody in there with some average at five? And then you move to Alvarez, Siri, and McNeil.
So we're gonna differ because I'm with you on Lindor. Lindor's leading off because of what he did last year.
Absolutely.
I'm putting Vientos in the 2 spot. He thrived there when he was put there.
You're not wrong.
And here's the other thing that worries me. If you're facing a right-handed pitcher, and most of baseball's right-handed pitchers,
Yeah.
you are starting the game with 3 straight lefties because Lindor switch, Nimmo, and then Soto are both lefties. So I would want to separate the lefties. So I
Okay.
would go Vientos in the 2 spot, Soto in the 3 spot. Pete hits cleanup
For now.
for now.
Yeah.
Nemo 5.
That's exactly where our flip
Yeah.
goes. Yeah.
Then I'm gonna go Alvarez 6th, McNeil in the 7 hole,
I like it like that.
and then 8, 9. I'm gonna go the Marte Winker connection because that's what I'm gonna call the DH spot. And then I'm going to end with whoever's playing center field. Now, I'm also not afraid to put Marte if he's playing in the 9 hole because I do like the speed at the bottom part of this lineup too.
I've always suggest, I understand baseball traditional history. Your weakest players, your banjo hitters, as they used to be called in the early 50s and 60s, batted 7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a position that, even as a kid, you never wanted to walk up into your own lineup and see you were in the bottom three.
Oh, yeah.
But the
Trust me, I
times have
lived that.
changed. The strategy has changed and for the better, where now that the DH is on both sides, you now can get a more cohesive strategy played.
Right. And the other thing is this because I think there's 2 X factors in this line. And we will bring it back to Pete in a minute. I think there's 2 X factors. One is what are you going to get out of Francisco Alvarez? because he had that stretch, and I still think his thumb was bothering him most of the year. So I'm
He had
giving
said that at the end of the season he was going to have it drained, but there was going to be no other surgical work. So that's
right.
good.
So
So that's
I,
good.
I'm giving him a little bit of a pass. Him
I
fully.
was out for a quarter of the season.
No,
So yeah.
I know, but you could tell he kind of rushed himself back.
Yeah.
So he's a big key. The other key's Marte. If Starling Marte, who, by the way, if he's going to DH some games, he's going to stay healthy and on the field. That is such a plus for this team.
He has been, I mean, barring last year and the year before, of course, but through his time before, he was such a great fielder, had such a great eye for the ball. And that's why the Mets originally got him. It wasn't not necessarily his speed. His fielding statistics were amazing. So,
No, and look, here's going to be the thing for me. That's why he's got to DH a little bit because defensively, while he's not as great as he once was, I also need him on the field.
yeah, I don't
He's
disagree with you that his arm is undoubtable.
yeah.
You
So
don't challenge him from right field. They don't send
no,
people.
no. So if he has to play right field once or twice a week, I'm okay with that. Now, excuse me, pivot it for a second. If he's not playing, and you got to put either McNeil in right or Nemo needs a day and McNeil's in left. Well, guess who steps in? You got Ronnie Mauricio potentially and Luis Angel Acuna. So the kids are still going to get their opportunity as well. And I think that's where I want to give Cohen and Stearns a big round of applause because while maintaining the status quo of this team, it is more important to see what you have in some of those guys. That's why after the Nick Madrigal signing, it's probably the end of Jose Iglesias.
Which is kind of sad considering what
But
this guy
apparently he
did.
turned down a 1 year offer according to
Yeah,
reports.
I know he did, but I mean, what this guy did, I mean, last year was
By the
cool.
way, if he retires, he could just become a coach on the staff.
I'll, I'll hire him as a new mascot. He can just walk around in the OMG symbol, and then that'll be it. But
Yeah.
it,
So,
but getting back to what this is, what this whole thing is about is here's how I put it to Mike earlier. The Mets have two things in their clubhouse right now. They got the thing that all the fans wanted this offseason. Yes, fans wanted others, but they got Pete.
mhm.
Pete is what brings the electric, the excitement to the crowd. Lindor is your captain.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's going to go without argument. Uh, Here's the thing, though. If we go positionally for a second with free agency, what were the two things? What were the two things on a Mets fans wish list? One was to bring in Juan Soto, and two was to bring back Pete,
Right.
and they accomplished
Both.
both. And I got the feeling after the Soto thing happened, I was like, man, are they going to have room for Pete? And then it was like, okay, Pete hasn't signed anywhere, and we're hearing nothing. And we didn't hear anything until really after the new year.
And the Toronto, and then the only team was the Blue Jays.
We had Toronto, and then there was that one day of the Angels. And
Yeah, that they were showing some interest. Yeah.
by the way, the Angels just signed Joan Moncada to a contract. What that means for Anthony Rendon, I have no idea. But
Hopefully they drop kick him on his ass out the stadium. Say, "Here's your money. Go home."
oh, but
But sorry.
No, and I think this is important too because Pete's every year of his career, and he has hit 30 or more every year outside of 2020, where he hit 16. And if he played 162 games in
Right,
2020, he's hitting over 30.
right.
Pete has, I think it's 226 for his career.
Yes, 226. He is right behind
He's
one of my,
behind Daryl Strawberry. He
yeah,
is 16,
and he'll
16
pass
behind
that,
Strawberry.
but he's gonna
He can
pass.
break that this year. And you know what the most important thing for me is? What that record would mean for I'm not trying to point anything out of Pete. What that record would mean to Met fans because Pete stayed.
Right.
Pete stayed and he broke the record. Daryl Strawberry, by the way, Daryl Strawberry said it during his retirement press conference with the Jersey this year or last year. He wanted to be a Met. Now, I don't know if that was just talking up the organization or if it was genuine. If it was genuine, awesome. We're gonna see in July David Wright's number 5 go up. We know that's genuine because David had better options. He chose to stick it out, and unfortunately, a back injury hurt his career.
Sorry, I can take off the hat. I've had
No,
the back injuries.
Pete Alonso can go down as the greatest Mets power hitter of all time.
Has the absolute chance to do it. Obviously, like you just said, next is Darryl Strawberry. Right after that is Mike Piazza.
But think about it, Piazza wasn't drafted by the team; he was
No,
traded for.
right. We've always said that records are meant to be broken, and they are. I don't know if it's just me or there are other people out there, in my opinion. If a team record is gonna be beat, I want it to be beat by somebody who started day one, played
Right.
20 years, and walk out on that 20th year and say, this
Well,
is all me here.
remember, Piazza hit over, I think he hit over near 400 for his career.
Right.
Only, I think, 220 of them are with the Mets.
Did he already? Well, hey, the old ops guy's
Hold
been
on,
on
I'll
for
double
you
check it.
while he was double checking it. One of the big keys, like Mike said, in depth, is if you look around, you still have Brett Beatty down. Mike mentioned Mauricio. There is also Drew Gilbert, who is major league ready. And Ryan Clifford is now been declared major league ready. So God forbid we got some young guys in the hole. Mike?
Hold on as I wait for
Oh,
this.
I thought you were there.
No, no, I'm the I am there. I'm just waiting for it to load.
Oh,
Don't you love technology, man?
they're still in snail mail out there in
Actually,
Ohio.
back in your day, the wheel was invented. Yeah,
What are you
Piazza's
kidding
at
me?
220, Alonso 226, David Wright's
Okay.
at 242, Strawberry's at
I
250.
meant to
So,
say he next is right. I
all
mixed it
right,
up.
so Wright is 2 at 242, and
Right.
Strawberry's at 252. Pete could still break it
Yeah.
this year. He would need 12 minus 6. He would need at least 26.
Oh, I think that's doable. And I also think Pete's going to want it more every time he's at the plate now. I think when you picture when opening day happens, that the crowd's going to go absolutely crazy for almost everybody who comes out of that dugout,
Yeah.
no matter who it is. But when Pete Alonso comes
Mm-hmm.
out, it's going to be a 5 minute ovation.
Well,
And
remember at the end of last year, the last home series, I think it was the
I,
Marlins,
it was an NL East matchup. That's all I can remember.
and they gave him an ovation his last step out of the eighth inning. Because remember, the Mets were ending on the road with 3 in Milwaukee.
Right. We know that how that happened, don't we, Brewers?
Pete tipped his cap, and then throughout the Brewers series, it was Is this his last at bat ever as a Met? Is it this? I
And
really
then
just.
that moment came.
And, but by the way, if you've lived under a rock and you haven't heard the Howie Rose call on WCBS radio, go listen to it. It is arguably the greatest home run call, um, at least for the Mets, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was a moment. I mean, the
Right.
man's last possible at bat, and he pokes it to the one part of the wall that was jagged out, where it could not have been jumped for.
Yeah, and he nailed it. The Mets win, and that was the moment where I was like, "All right, Steve, blank check it. I don't care. Blank check it. He did it. He earned it." And then fast forward the Philly series, he got some big hits.
Yep.
The Dodgers series. How about Game 5 of the first inning against the Dodgers? 3 runs, 3-run bomb to right center. He had his moments in the playoffs with his ass really on fire, and he came through when the Mets and the fan base needed it.
Right. And that's what drives a fan base. I mean, no matter what, if you're the Yankees or you're the Mets, if you're losing, the fans are going to let you know it. They're
Right.
going to let you know it. They'll boo the
That's the
biggest people. You're winning, the fans are going to let you know it. If the fans love you, they're going to let you know it. But everybody asks, what is baseball about?
moments.
Thank you. I couldn't have picked a better word. Baseball's about definitive moments. And if you want to, go online and look up definitive moments in baseball and go watch 10 of them if you don't know a lot about baseball or not interested. Baseball's a sport that's full of anticipation. What's going to happen next?
And here's the thing, because there's been talks on whether the Mets should have wanted Pete back or if they were better off playing the young guys. The 2025 New York Mets are better because Pete Alonso is on the team.
Yes, I think they're going to have more of a life.
There is something for me. Now, I think you're going to get Pete to play his ass off first and foremost.
Hmm?
But two, and I think this is really important, and you brought it up before. It's Francisco Lindor's team,
Yes.
but Pete Alonso is the third, probably the player in the line with the third most amount of pressure on him.
Yep.
Because Lindor, as you mentioned, because he's the catalyst.
Yes.
And then it's Soto, because Soto's got to live up to the expectations. So now all of a sudden, a little bit of that pressure off of put that pressure off of Pete. It's on Soto. Guess what happens in those spots? We know how patient Juan Soto is.
The only thing I don't can't wait to not watch. It's gonna kill me every time the man takes a ball and he's got to squat. Drives me nuts. But you want to
But
know what? No more Garcia Power drove me even more nuts. After every pitch, he had to go back and fix his wristbands. Drove me
Red Sox legend Nomar Garcia.
that drove me nuts more.
But here's the thing: because Soto, we
Is
both,
patient.
I think Soto's hitting in front of. We both think Soto hits in front of Pete.
Yes.
That's gonna free Pete, like
Pete's
it,
in.
like it did Aaron Judge. Now, am I gonna sit here and say Pete's gonna hit 58 this year? Hell no, I ain't saying that. But what I'm saying is, I think you're gonna see less of those flailing at those curveballs 50
Yes.
in front of the plate.
So let's take a look at one thing because it's an interesting point, as you just said, is that Pete's going to get that more looks now that Juan Soto, is on the Mets. Let's flip it back. to the Yankees because I can. What does this do for Aaron Judge? Or do not for, what does this do to Aaron Judge? The removal of Juan Soto as that protection.
Well, I don't think it does anything to Judge personally. I think it does this though. I think it creates more pressures on the guys around Judge. Because I listen, if Aaron Judge gets pitched around, that's gonna happen.
I would
But
think so.
now you have to look at it like this. We know at some point Giancarlo Stanton's getting hurt. But what is
Fair.
Giancarlo Stanton gonna look like before he gets hurt? What's he doing? What is Cody Bellinger going to look like in a Yankee uniform? Like, I think the loss of Soto for the Yankees it hurts, but I'll say this: I have to see how it's constructed before I tear it apart because I think I said this to you the other day when we did a recording. I still think the Yankees are the most talented team in the American League.
And to give you the credit, A, yes, you did say that, and B, you did say the thing before. You know, we go at it with Dan and Bill and Eric at all times of the year, and it's all fun between all of us. Well, some of us actually go and run and cry, but it's all fun between all of us. And the Yankees are the best team in the American League. I think they're the best. I agree with Mike. I think there are going to be plenty of challengers because we don't know what this Yankee team is going to do or produce. But you want to know what? We don't know what any team is going to do or produce.
And here's the other part, though. I'm bringing it back to the Mets for a second because you brought up the young guys before with Beatty, and
Mhm.
we talked about Dylan Cease the other day.
Yeah,
Do,
that's
do the Mets still
blasphemy.
think they can do that? Are the Mets going to be willing to do that?
See, the funny thing is, who did I tell you we were going to lose that I didn't want to lose if the trade was going to be made?
You said if someone was going to get traded,
Jet Williams. I
Jet
said
Williams.
did not want to see him in a trade. To be honest, I don't want to see any of them traded except Beatty. Beatty, look, I believe he will be a better than Jared Kalenic ball player. I don't think he's going to be as big as I had hoped, but hey, I can be very wrong too and be fooled.
I think here's the interesting part about Beatty because I think you can center the steel around Beatty. I don't think he's the major piece coming back, but I think he's a piece going back. Manny Machado is mid 30s,
Yeah, somewhere.
and at some point with the contract they just gave him, he's going to DH. He's going to DH
Well,
home.
yeah, you would figure that probably with him too.
So
Then why not pull for somebody cheap, younger in Bregman? If you're gonna go that way and give
no,
up,
but because they're not okay. For those who don't know, the Padres ownership group is in flux. They're trying to trade out money because they don't know the situation with their ownership because the owner passed away last year.
correct.
It is the brothers versus the widow of the owner.
Widow. Look, let me tell you, if you've ever worked in matrimonial law, which mind you, I have. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one when it's made fully public.
Yeah, so there's talks of AJ Preller trying to trade out some money. That's why Cease they're listening on and
Matrimonial,
Michael
sorry,
King.
unconstitutional.
So
Contract law.
if you
All
have
the law.
bait, if you can give them Beatty, and then I'm with you. I think Jet Williams, he's probably your center fielder of the future at the moment
Right now,
because
that's where he's being retrained. He was a shortstop.
right, but
Obviously,
the Mets have a
there's a
lot.
block there for the next decade.
There's a
So
block there.
they're trying with him what they did with Ronnie Mauricio, and they taught Mauricio to play left field. They're trying to teach Jet Williams to play center. And with this kid's speed, if he can learn to track the ball, he will be a big defensive
So
credit to anybody.
so right away. We got we can put Beatty in the Mets can put Beatty in there. The
You're
Mets
going to
can
see Matt Allen in there. No matter what, if you're going Dylan
you,
Cease, Matt
you're
Allen's
probably going to
going.
see two starters in there.
You're going to see Matt Allen as one, which, as much time as the Mets have given him, I mean, this is his going to be his first real healthy year in the last few after the Tommy John. So, it's going to be hit or miss, but I would assume Matt Allen is still one of the top Mets pitching prospects.
Right. If you can get out of this deal, not giving up Brandon Sporat.
Sporak is going to be, the most talked about name, but I
Right.
don't think
But
they're going to
you
give up
also
on him.
the Padres are also going to need a guy who could eat innings now. That'd be Tyler McGill.
Would it be Tyler McGill, or I hate to say it, would it be David Peterson?
No, I'd rather give up McGill than Peters.
So would I. I'm saying realistically, I would want to give up McGill over Peterson. But when you look at the two, who would you rather ask for?
The argument also could be, hey, there's another guy in there in Jose Budo. They could ask
No, no,
about.
no, 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 no. We're keeping the Budo here.
But anyway, so right there you got your pitchers that you could give up.
Yep.
So now you have to look at the prospect rankings of one or two others because I do think the Mets are short a start.
At least.
Because I look at them right now in the National League. If I take the orange and blue pom poms and put them to the side for a second,
Okay. Man, I don't want to know where those were hanging.
the Mets are the third best team in the National League, in my opinion, right now.
You're generous.
Right
I had them
now,
at second. I have them at second.
I got them at 3. I don't think they're better than the Dodgers.
That's number one on my list, unfortunately. I'm not going to lie.
And number 2, and I know they beat them in the playoffs.
I'm at
I
number
got the
two.
Phillies.
Nope.
But here's my reasoning.
Phillies are number 4.
Hold on. Here's my reasoning about the Phillies. I'm going to take their rotation over the Met rotation.
Yeah, shit, and I have no comeback on that.
I mean, Wheeler and Nola.
I have no comeback on that because you're 100% right.
No, I know.
There is no frame of reference. I mean, you're 100% right.
But here's my point to the audience.
Yeah.
Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes, we can rave about their signings. We have no idea what the hell we're going to get out of them.
No. I mean, what you're going to want.
We don't even know what we're going to get out of Kodai Senga.
Well, that's where I was just going. I was about to say, technically, the only name on this list that we are perfectly sure that's something that we know is Sean Manaea. Does he he handed the ball for the first game at Citi Field this year? Has he earned it? I would think so after what he did last year.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're talking opening day starter. Like, is it Sean Manaea? Is it Senga? We could even make the argument it could be David Peters.
Right. I mean, of what's there now, obviously Kodai Senga is figured to be the Mets ace as of now. But no, I think Sean Manaea, after what he did last year, deserves that opening Citi Field.
Now, if you were to go get Dylan Cease,
and then we'd have a different placement.
No.
Oh, it wouldn't be Manaea.
It's just off my point. If you go get Dylan Cease, you creep a little bit closer to the Philadelphia Phillies.
If you can, Cease is going to give up so much. I mean, I understand. You can't keep everybody. It's not how the game is played. If the Mets and the brilliant organization that Steve Cohen has put together can finagle a way to bring Dylan Cease from San Diego, I know it'll cost, but Mike had said it right there. It creeps that rotation closer to the Phillies than farther away.
Now here's the other part. The Mets could be status quo until the trade deadline and wait and see. The problem for me on being status quo until the deadline, one, we know there's going to be injuries because there's injuries every year. But 2, this rotation is, like I just said, right now it's full of question marks. And if you want to compete for a World Series, and that is Steve Cohen's goal, that is David Stearns' goal, that is my goal, that's Gary Cohen's goal. I think you need one at minimum. You need one more starter
And
entering the year.
yeah, I without doubt, by the trade deadline, they're gonna need another starter because once you get into those dog days of summer, everybody knows what it's like in the Northeast in the summer. It's hot and it's hard to go more than 6 innings. I think the Mets will be safe at a six-man rotation, to be honest.
And by the way, I just put the Phillies and the Dodgers ahead of them.
Mm.
What is it? Arizona's not a bad baseball team.
Don't count out Atlanta either.
I wasn't going to,
Yeah, don't
but
look.
let's
As
also
much as
not.
I hate the Bravos,
Well, they got their own questions
well,
about
I don't. We don't know
rotation,
what Ronald Acuna is going to be. That's the biggest of them all.
and he's not supposed to be back till May.
I was about to say May, June, yes.
Yeah, I think May is the targeting, but we haven't heard anything on Spencer Strider recently either.
No. So I mean, it could it I mean, could it turn out that we hear from the Braves commission just like when we heard out of the Mets contention, we might not be competitive in 2024, 2025. Yeah, we saw what happened when we say we weren't going to be competitive. Look where we went.
Well, I think for the Braves it's different because the Braves still have talent.
Oh,
Olson,
absolutely.
Albies, Riley,
Yeah.
but they did lose Met killer Travis Darno. Thank you, Angels.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, good luck over there. They're gonna have another guy who's got injury problems.
but again, just back to Pete, and I want to make
Yeah,
before we
close this out.
close this out, I do want to make this more
Yeah, where we intended it
about
to be.
Pete because whether this is Pete's only year or if this is Pete's last year, if this is going to be it, I think it's important for the fan base to understand what he means. I think it's important for the fan base to understand what he's meant. I think it's important for us and him to understand this may not be the end. And no matter what happens, whether he opts in to 2026, he opts out to 20 for 2026, that may not be the end.
Right.
Remember, Starling Marte's up after this year.
And there's 20 plus million off the contract, off the
There's
book.
20 million off the books, but it also frees up that DH spot. So if Pete wants to opt in
And
and you still
DH.
want to give Ryan Clifford or Drew Gilbert that opportunity at first base, guess what? The polar bear could become the DH.
Exactly. And
And
that's something they have to prepare for.
and Pete, I'm begging you, break the record this year because I don't want to go into 2026 knowing you're going to finish second in home runs as a Met and know that record will not be broken.
Right. You know, before we sign off, I'm going to ask Mike the one question. Alonso and Soto, how many combined home runs do we get? Be just the two of them.
Combined, 82,
I have 88.
44 apiece.
You got it.
Well, it's funny.
I don't know. I'm not, as you said, 44 piece, which is funny, which I have written down that I'm like, wow, he actually gets that. But yes, I have him at
But
44 piece.
I don't know how many Soto's going to hit. He's going to hit himself some. I think Pete. I think everything comes down to who's hitting behind him. Because if it's Nimmo, we know Nimmo's going to work the count, whatever. But argument's sake, Francisco Alvarez is hitting in that 5 hole. And Francisco Alvarez gets on a little bit of a tear.
Yes.
Pete's going to get some pitches.
And
Pete will
Pete's
get,
gonna land one on top of the Empire State Building
yeah. I gotta tell you,
by the
pitchers
end
and
of the show.
catchers report in a couple of days.
Oh, I know.
Can't wait for it. The polar
Can't wait to
bears
watch the
re-up.
Eagles lose this upcoming Sunday.
Out to former Met Patrick Mahomes.
See, that works. Now I have a reason to root for the Chiefs.
Boom. I mean, you can root for the Chiefs for many of reasons,
But
but we will have a Super Bowl show at some point Sunday. Hope you all
yeah,
tune in. Check out the audio version of this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Video available on YouTube. Check out the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials. Twitter, S Insanity Real. Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network. All right. Spring training, very close. We'll cover you with Batter Up. Division previews, we'll start those up soon.
yep.
But until next time, for the old apps guy, I'm Mike. Everyone have a safe and pleasant good evening.